Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is Liz Loves Books. I read 11 books in September and DNF'd 2. Let's yap about them. Today we are going to start off with my September wrap up, and we are going to start off with the 2 books I DNF'd. One was a hard DNF and one was a soft DNF. My first DNF, unfortunately, was Deep Cuts by Holly Brickley, a nice short book, really beautiful cover. I bought this because it was about music. I was so bored reading this book. I can't even remember how far I got in. Not very far at all. It was just so boring and dry. The characters had no depth. The writing style, I didn't like the characters. I didn't like the pretentiousness of the writing. And I'm going to be unhauling it. And that is The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. I know everyone loves The Dead Romantics and The 7-Year Slip. I also love The 7-Year Slip. I gave it a 4.5 star. And this one has like a super cool premise because all of Ashley Poston's books have an element of magical realism to them. And this follows our main character, Florence Day, and she can see ghosts. Like, how cool of a premise is that, right? I just wasn't connecting very well, but I knew that I could connect to the characters, so that is why it is a soft DNF. Okay, now on to my 1 2-star of the month, and that is One by One by Frida McFadden. I listened to this on audio. I listened to all of Frida's books on audio. They are quick, fast-paced, entertaining reads. This one was just not it for me. But the average rating on Goodreads for this book is a 4.28, which I do not understand in the slightest. I'm usually not too harsh of a rater. I don't give out 2.5s very often. But this one, was it fast-paced? Yes. Did it keep me engaged? Yes. But the characters and the plot were just bad. This was boring and honestly predictable. I'm reading it back now and I'm like, oh, that's kind of harsh. But it says, probably my least favorite Frida book yet. I listened to it on audio because her books always go by so quick for me. It was still fast-paced, but yet at the same time boring. I didn't understand how that was possible. It does follow one of the tropes of Agatha Christie. Each person gets killed off one by one. But that's pretty much all I can give it. The characters were like one note and really stereotypical. I didn't like any of them, and I didn't root for our FMC Claire. I guess the main plot twist and the secondary plot twist, which made the book more anticlimactic for me. And I am currently trying to read through all of Frida's thriller backlist, and I would say skip this one if you are into Frida. It just was not a hit, not a good book for me. Next, we'll move on to my 3-star reads. I had 2 3-star reads this month, and the first one we're going to talk about is The Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker. I would consider this an extreme horror novella. I read this because my fiance usually picks 1 or 2 books that he's read and liked for me to read every spooky season. And I gave it a 3-star because I understand why people have liked it. It's a 4.08 average rating on Goodreads. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. As I said, it's an extreme horror, so definitely don't read it if you're not into like body horror, gore. It was really descriptive, really disgusting. But if anybody who doesn't know what it's about, I'm going to read the little synopsis here. It says, in a quiet house on a quiet street, Frank and Julia are having an affair. Not your ordinary affair. For Frank, it began with his own insatiable sexual appetite, a mysterious lacquered box, and then an unhinged voyage to another world of imaginable places, pleasures, and unimaginable horror. Now Frank, or what is left of Frank, waits in an empty room. All he wants is to live as he was before. All Julia can do is bring him her unfulfilled passions and a little flesh and blood. So if that sounds interesting to you, pick it up, heed my warning. My next 3-star book was Do Not Disturb by Frida McFadden. I enjoyed this one much more than One by One. My review for this was, Frida's books are great for when I need a quick, entertaining audiobook. As usual, there were many twists and turns, as is common in a Frida book, although I found this twist a little random and very red herring-esque, which I don't always love unless it serves like a really good purpose. There were other twists, like secondary plot twists that I did not expect, though, and I didn't guess the main twist either. I feel like 3 stars is a little harsh. I feel like it could be bumped up to a 3.5, but again, it was lower just because Frida's characters aren't always the most lovable and entertaining characters. although I did enjoy this one much more than One by One. Next, we'll move on to my 3.5 stars. I have 2 of them. My first 3.5 star is Sunbringer by Hannah Kaner. This is book 2 in the Fallen Gods trilogy. This book has an average total of 3.88 on Goodreads. I did feel like this book suffered from middle book syndrome just a little bit, and I liked it quite a bit less than the first book, God Killer. I just felt like the thing that was missing for me in this was all of our characters that came together in the first book were separated for the entire book. There was maybe, there was a moment at the end where, they all came back together, but it felt very quick and very kind of sloppy in a way, but basically my Goodreads review said, while I still enjoyed the sequel to the Fallen Gods trilogy, I was a little disappointed in the direction that the author took it. I gave God Killer 4 stars and thought the storyline and the characters were so different from each other and each stood out on their own, even though they were together for a majority of the book. In the second book, all 3 of our main characters were separated for almost the entire time, which made sense in order for them to grow as characters, but it's never a style that appeals to me. I'm fine if they're usually separated for a while, but I want them to kind of come back maybe halfway through the book. At least 1 or 2 of them come together and another one can be... And they didn't come back until the big battle at the end of the book. What I loved about the first book was the found family aspect, and I feel like it was just stripped away in this book, and hopefully it comes back in the third book, and hopefully they're more together. Although I've read the back page of the third book, and it sounds like they're all separate still. So, I don't know. But the fantasy backdrop and development of the side characters and gods from the first book were what kept me going when I was listening to it. Hannah Kaner's writing is amazing, and descriptive in a way that makes you really visualize where you are in the world of Midrin and the characters and the gods. She also does a really great job at representation in her books, and it isn't used as a gimmick, a joke, or a sad story plotline. It's just there. And all of these characters that have physical disabilities in the stories make it their strength, which I also loved. Yep, 3.5 stars for this one. A little underwhelming compared to the first book in the series. Then my other 3.5 star read was Strange Pictures by Yuketsu. This is a Japanese translated horror. And since Goodreads doesn't have half-star ratings, I did round it up to a 4 because I believed it deserved more of a 4 than a 3-star. Strange Pictures has an average rating of a 3.98, so a little bit higher than what my rating of a 3.5 was. But the main thing that I liked about this book is it's interesting, it's unique, the concept was different, the inclusion of pictures, graphs, statistics to help move the reader forward in the story, and solving the mysteries was what kept me reading and why I finished it in an entire day. While I enjoyed my reading experience, the book wasn't perfect. There's 4 different stories that are all interconnected, and I feel like the third story really slowed it down for me. It was the longest, and I felt like it was the most boring story of the 4, and I felt like the explanations were just kind of beating you over the head. The 2 stories in the book were my favorite, probably just because you're kind of getting yourself immersed in the world. The 4th story kind of wrapped it all up, which was really nice because I was worried as I was reading through the 3rd and in the beginning of the 4th story that it would leave it a little bit open-ended, and I was like, please no, because I hate open-ended books, movies, TV shows, anything. It makes me really angry. But overall, I enjoyed it. Now we're going to move on to the good stuff. We've got my 4-star ratings. So my first book that I read that I gave a 4-star was a reread, and that was Death Note Volume 1, the Black Edition. This is a manga. This has a 4.49 average rating on Goodreads, which is absolutely amazing considering this came out many, many years ago. It is a 4-star now, but it was still really good. It was just happened a lot quicker than I remembered it happening, so that's kind of why I dropped it down a little bit. But basically, Death Note follows our main character, who's right here on the cover. His name is Light Yagami, and he is a high school student who is ridiculously smart. He's like a genius. He finds this black notebook, which is called a Death Note. And it was dropped by something that was called a Shinigami god, who is this ethereal being that controls these death notes and controls when people pass away. And any human whose name is written in the notebook dies, and now Light has vowed to use the power of the death note to rid the world of evil. His goal is very noble at the start of this, but whenever you have that much power, it gets to your head, and slowly Light is now committing decisions that are not very moral, not very smart, and he is letting his genius cloud his judgment. It says, will Light's noble goal succeed, or will the Death Note turn him into the very thing he fights against? And the next 4-star that I have, that I actually just finished yesterday as of filming now, and that was Rose in Chains by Julie Soto. This is the beautiful Fairy Loot edition. Rose in Chains has an average 4.21 rating over on Goodreads. This is the first in a new romantasy series by Julie Soto. When I was reading this, I was really desperately hoping that it would be a 5-star, because that would give Julie Soto 3 5-stars for me and kind of solidify her as an all-time favorite author. Although I did give this a 4-star, I thought it was really, really solid, considering it was her first foray into romantasy. It says, the war is over, the dark forces have won, and the hero who was supposed to save them is dead. After watching her brother die and her kingdom fall, Princess Brienne Rosewood is captured by the enemy, stripped of her magic, and auctioned off to the highest bidder. She's sold to Tovin Hurst, scion of the powerful and devious Hurst family, and her secret infatuation. But Brienne can't submit to her feelings. A secret rebellion is brewing, and she must escape to join it. Yet despite the horrors of her new world, help and hope can arise in the most unlikely of places. I really enjoyed this book, and I'm looking forward to reading the sequel that Julie Soto is going to release next year. I thought that Julie did a great job at creating the fantasy world within Evermore and Beaumard, the cities and countries within the book. And there were some elements missing for me, but I think Julie will improve upon that in the second book, or so I hope. There were moments where the book was slower and I was losing interest, but then something else will bring me back into the storyline, which is good. This book is a slow burn, so if you don't enjoy that, I would maybe recommend you stay away from this, because it might frustrate you. And there's also flashbacks of like minor kissing scenes and lots of tension within the present tense of the story. But if you're waiting for like the ultimate ending that you see in a lot of romantasies, you won't get it in this first book, at least. And Brienne and Tovin, our FMC and MMC, have a history where their interest in each other just keeps kind of like missing each other. They're like flags in the wind or whatever. And it seems fated, but it's never the right time or the right place for either one of them to embark on any kind of relationship. And Tovin, our MMC, is a kind of brooding and much more quiet MMC. He's very calculated in his decisions and calculated in his emotions, which juxtaposes with our FMC Brienne, who is quite impulsive and reckless within her decisions whenever she actually gets the chance to make any kind of decision, because she is very limited on the decisions and choices she gets to make. I do wish that we got more of the world of Evermore and Beaumard, but we were more so stuck within Brienne's head and POV and her storyline, which got tiring at times because she is basically a prisoner in the Hurst family home. And our FMC doesn't know much about the politics of the world, despite trying for years to get involved in it. But all the people and characters around her are keeping her in the dark and wanting to keep her naive and pure, which makes you frustrated for Brienne, because she is trying to not be that way, but the story is really making her be that way. And so that was really frustrating for me for the character, but I think that was the purpose that Julie Soto was going for. The magic system was also very unique, which is, I feel like it's hard for a romantasy book nowadays because there's so many of them, and it's hard to kind of come up with a completely original idea. As of now, I haven't read another book that has this kind of magic system, so it's unique for me. I do wish that the author would have explained the magic system a little bit more, because sometimes it was very vague, and then all of a sudden there's like a big description and you're like, wait, what's going on? You basically have 2 types of magic in the world. You have mind magic and heart magic, and those are the big main magics within the world. But overall, I really enjoyed the book and Julie's writing, and I'm hoping to read the sequel next year. Now we're going to move on to my 4.5 stars. So my first book that I gave a 4.5 stars was Daisy Hates by Jessa Hastings. This is the second book in the Magnolia Parks Daisy Hates universe. Overall, this book has a 4.07 average rating on Goodreads, so I wrote 4.5 stars. Jessa's writing is something else. It's so unique from any other writers that are out there right now. I enjoyed Magnolia Parks, the first book in the series, but I love Daisy Hates even more. The messy character connections, along with the gang subplot, kept me reading past my bedtime. I think having the extra subplot really got the reader to dive deeper into the Hates family and what they stood for as people and how far they were willing to go for themselves, but also for their family and friends, whether or not they were good or bad decisions. You see both. More so the bad decisions, which is really interesting. And Daisy, as our FMC, she was such a nuanced character and seemed much older in a good way than her 20 years. And I think that's to do with all the trauma she's had to observe throughout her life. I love that when Daisy decided she was done with someone, she was actually like done with them, like cut them off cold turkey. That juxtaposition to Magnolia's character, because she does appear in this book as well as Daisy appearing in the first book, was needed because otherwise they would read too similar. And I think Jessa did a great job with the juxtaposition between Daisy and Magnolia. I also enjoyed how the second book took place pretty much in the same timeline as the first book, because you could see what both Magnolia and Daisy were dealing with at the same time. They were both swimming through their own trauma in different ways and handling it in completely different ways as well. Also, we need to talk about Julian Hates, Daisy's older brother. He has POVs in this book, although he doesn't have his own books. His story is a subplot within Daisy's story. He was the most unique character in this book because we got his POV along with Daisy and Christian, our main characters, but it delves into how he has tried to raise Daisy for many years, along with being the highest ranking gang lord in his family's crime dynasty. Like, it's so unique. Like, imagine dealing with that alongside the rich, petty drama of England's richest families, while also being a gang leader. And then finally, the side characters in this book and the found family was so fun to read about. It reminded me a lot of the characters in the Sons of Anarchy TV show, if you've seen that. Motorcycle gang, crime gang, very similar. Everyone in the group has developed a found family, but there were also really messy relationships within it too, both physical and emotional, which is very similar to this story. And if you haven't picked up this series, please do. Usually you hear people on BookTube say I'm a Magnolia girl or a Daisy girl. As of right now, I am a Daisy girl through and through. And so I'm really excited to continue on in this series and read Magnolia's second book. The next book that I gave a 4.5 stars to was another reread, and that is Alice in Borderland, Volume 1 by Haru Aso. This is yet another manga series. This manga is so unique, but basically this first book follows our main character. His name is Ryohei Arisu, and he is 18 years old, and he is basically trying to finish up high school, and he's dealing with the pressure that is coming from his parents and his younger brother, who is an extremely successful student and has like strict A's, AP classes, all of that kind of stuff. And he hasn't been very successful in his life according to everyone around him, and he's kind of letting that pressure get to him and making him more depressed and introverted and reverting into himself. And he has his two best friends who are also kind of screw-ups, as you would say, within society's viewpoints of people. Well, you hear Alice in Borderland, what else do you think of when you hear that title? Alice in Wonderland, right? So it follows that kind of idea where Ryohei and his two friends, they get sucked into this alternate world called Borderland, where it looks just like Japan where they live, and they run into other people in this city, and you have to compete in these various games in order to survive Borderland and escape. Each of these games that you step into have different varying levels of degree and difficulty, but they use like playing cards as to announce the difficulty. So like an 8 of clubs. 8 is a really high number, harder difficulty level, and then all the different things like clubs, spades, hearts all mean a different type of challenge. And once you get them, you get a card. So say if you were doing an 8 of clubs trial, if you win and you don't die within the challenge, you get 8 days on a Visa card in Borderland. So you have 8 more days before you have to complete another game. And you basically just have to go through with these characters. There is a lot of death, there is a lot of hardship, but there's also like a silver lining within it as well as you read further on into the series. I highly, highly recommend this book. Now, we finally get to talk about my 5-star read of this month, Wildcard by Elsie Silver, one of my all-time favorite contemporary romance authors. This is the 4th book in the Rose Hill series, her most recent series that she has published, and this was my absolute favorite book in the series. It follows our two characters, our FMC Gwen and our MMC Bash, or his full name is Sebastian. And this has a really fun trope of ex-boyfriend's dad, but it is played in such a good way. It makes you not feel like, ooh, that's icky on the dad's part, because trust me, you will hate the son. He's awful. Sebastian Rousseau is a grumpy, hot-as-hell fire pilot who is too damn good with his hands. It's the perfect combination, but unfortunately for Gwen, he's also her ex-boyfriend's dad. And there's also an age gap Sebastian is 40 and Gwen is 28, so there's quite a big age gap there. And it says, a chance meeting brought them together and a missed connection has kept them apart. It's a lot of right person, wrong time, repeatedly, and they're both very afraid of stepping on other people's toes, especially Sebastian. They're basically just learning how to take care of themselves and their own feelings, their own emotions, and not worrying about what other people think. And Gwen really helps Sebastian with that opinion because she has kind of learned in her life to not lean on the expectations that other people give her, like her family, who she is estranged from. Overall, this book has a 4.19 average rating on Goodreads. This is my favorite book in the Rose Hill series, 5 stars. It says, Gwen and Bash were the sweetest, most adorable couple ever. I adored how they just loved each other unconditionally in every moment, even when they were trying to just stay friends and figure out their relationship. They always respected each other in every decision that they made, minus one little part, but they learned from it and supported each other's choices and endeavors. They didn't judge or insult each other. Though there was an age gap in the book, I'm glad Elsie didn't go the route of where the MMC like fetishizes the FMC or makes it a big deal how much older he is. And the age gap didn't bother me at all with them. Gwen was so secure in herself as a person too, and I love that she didn't let people's opinions of her and her choices get her down. She also was content with her life as a yoga teacher and didn't feel the need to have an impressive job like her parents wanted her to have. She knew that aiding people in improving their health and self-esteem was rewarding enough. She proves this when she helps assist the best side character ever, Clyde, or Crazy Clyde as he is called in the book series, through his health struggles. And Bash is also very secure in himself, but in a completely different way than Gwen. He is such a supportive and encouraging MMC, not just for Gwen, but for every other character in the book. He always put other people first before himself, to his detriment. But he is stoic and quiet, but will always be there for you. And then his job as a firefighter, as a pilot, was so unique and interesting, especially for a plot line near the end of the book that involves a lot of that. And after giving it a few days, I actually thought about it. With all the Elsie Silver books that I've read, this is in my top 3 at the moment. My top 3 order for Elsie Silver's books so far are Hopeless, which is number 1. And then there's a tie between Wildcard and Heartless. And then my third favorite is Reckless. So if you have not read Elsie Silver and you like contemporary spicy romance, please pick up her books. I know she's read a lot. I know she's recommended a lot, but there is a reasoning for it. She's amazing. I love her. The end. Hope you guys enjoyed my discussion about all of these books and listening to me yap for years about these. Please let me know in the comments which book you're most interested in reading or what was your favorite or 5-star book in September. And I will see you in another video soon. Bye guys.